And welcome back. We're back to Voyager. There's so many damn starships in Starfleet that sometimes I draw a blank for a second, but she's very distinguished from the other ships. So I got a real live regulated power supply, which simply means that it constantly keeps a constant voltage. And for this, because it was hooked into this power supply over here, which is our regular big power supply, where we can adjust voltage and amperage and all that kind of thing. And the other day, I didn't know that somebody hooked something else up to it and set it for a higher voltage, and I turned this on, and before I realized it was happening, immediately disconnected it because it was set for over 12 volts. That could be bad. So the first thing I did today was take this 9-volt regulated power supply and hooked it up to this temporarily and made sure it couldn't short. And voila, we got lights. And when these blink, these don't dim out, the other lights, because it's a regulated power supply. It constantly keeps the voltage constant to all the lights. At least that's what I've been told. So that was really good. And what we want to do now with this model is close it up. And what I mean by closing it up is closing up the saucer section permanently and puttying in the cracks and putting this down right. But before I did that, I want to do something else, something that really bugs me. I love these purple lights up here, but that's the wrong color. So what I want to do is, boy, these are really stuck in there good. Okay, so what I want to do is make baffles of some sort to block the red light from traveling and the blue from traveling into there. I have various ideas what to do about that, and I'm going to try one really simple one right away and see how that works. So we'll come back in a second after I get some materials together. Being that I am out of currently what is it called? Epoxy sculpt, which is my favorite. I had some Millput here, and I thought, gee, I wonder if this will work. So what I did is I mixed up the two-part, basically it's plumber's epoxy, and it takes, this stuff takes quite a while to set up. And I put it in here to see if that would, like so. It's not pretty looking, but it's very successful. Now I have only red showing in the front, which is what I want. So that is going to work really well. I have another concern here, and that is that I'm going to have to replace this because we lost some of the, for some reason, this burned out. But, and we don't, it's not fully lit enough all the way back. And on top of that, I need to put some liquid tape over these so that they're not shining green into the nacelle as well. So this stuff's great. I think it's the same thing as tool dip. I'm not sure. So I'm going to take a little bit of this and get rid of that green. Oh. Of course, nothing would do that it dripped down on the side of the paint job. But that's modeling for you, folks. This stuff's very opaque. And it might take a couple of times doing it, but it should get rid of the green, as it seems to have done. So what I need to do is replace this. Then we'll come back and we'll close this nacelle up so you can see how I did that and how effective it was or wasn't, depending on your point of view. So we'll be back in a second, or maybe a long minute, a French minute, and we'll close this up. So I replaced the blue strip. Now we have them lit all the way down, the baffles in place, and I'm going to close this up. I'm going to close this up. I hear you, Elliot. it's a wire sticking out. It's not what you're thinking. Actually, it is what you're thinking, Elliot. I still have a leak there, which I don't have on the other one, so I got to pull it up again and push this forward, which is why this works so well, actually. And that should take care of that problem very successfully. No, I still got a leak. Where's it coming from? Leak gone. Okay, so now there we are. I just need to glue this down, and we are done. So, except I got a wire sticking out there. It's always something. You little bastard. There we are. Okay, so obviously what I have to do next is close this, put some glue on it, and close it down, and put some clamps on it till the glue dries, which is what I plan to do next. And I have malput coming out there, so I need to get this clamped down. So okay, I'm going to get some. Oh, which reminds me, I got to call Smith Brothers. Smith Brothers, the greatest hobby store in the world. Because I'm biased, and my friends have been running it for the last 30 years or more. Now, theoretically, this glue is actually traveling between the crack and inside. These parts do not fit together that well, but we'll gap it with some other material. Okay. So that takes care of that one. And very pretty, very bright, nice, nice, nice. This one is not leaking either, so I'm just going to go ahead and put the clamps on it. George, thank you, George, for the clamps. So that completes the nacelles. Oh, wait a minute. Just kidding. That completes the nacelles. Now we can move on to putting down the saucer section. I've already light blocked this back here with a little bit of squadron putty, which is really good because there was a crack back here and it doesn't fit that well together. And I'll be taking this and putting it into all the cracks that don't close all the way. And this stuff is completely opaque and will block the light really well. So what I'm going to do now is close the top, and there's really no magic to this or mystery or rocket science. I've got these on here to make sure it closes. Even without them, it closes pretty well. And I'm going to put it on with CA, so in the event I ever need to get inside and get to the board, I will be able to do that. So I'm going to sort of lift up a little bit there and start putting glue on without using any kind of accelerator whatsoever. Thank you, George. Because it's stronger without the accelerant. Any kind of accelerators that you use to speed up any glue process are going to be weaken the glue somewhat. So that's why 30-minute epoxy is stronger than 5-minute epoxy, and so on and so forth. Now here, I need it to be right there. Figures I went underneath like that, George. I keep going underneath. So I'm gonna wipe it. Come on, baby. Come on up on me. Just don't move. I'm gonna turn this around this way. Okay. So right. So far, so good. These guys have a tendency to want to snap off sometime. I could use more of these, actually. Quickly, Brad, there are thousands of lives at stake. What is that from? The Explorers? No. No, Close Encounters, that's right. The trains. He did say thousands too, didn't he? Okay. Oh boy, that really went gunk, gunk, and down it went. Oh shit. I got another line. Johan, keep your projectiles to yourself. What movie, George?
I can't.
I know. It's your last day. It was Explorers. Yeah, at home they're already saying, Explorers!
Oh, that's right. Oliver Cromwell.
Whoa, boy, that's like closing too much. Well, the nice thing about all this is we can do this. Unscrew. Makes your heart stop, doesn't it? Then we can look underneath and see if it's closing too much. That is definitely closing too much. See that? That really popped down there. I'm surprised on both of these sides. Wow, that's surprising. Now see, CA doesn't really glue well to styrene. It will break away cleanly under a lot of pressure. And Model Man Tom taught me this a long time ago, and he likes to use this technique for what he calls surgery, in case he needs to get into a model and repair it. Now we got a little problem right here, and that's this part here does not fit right. The previous owner did not do that right, and it's not anything I can fix. I'm gonna have to putty over it. There, now that closes just fine. Now I relieve that stress. Get some more in here. So what we're doing here, of course, is we're closing this thing up, getting ready for puttying it and everything. So I wanted to do this today, and the putty is going to help a lot with fixing all these problems. Right here, I am going to put a clamp on, so that stays down. That ended up fitting down really well. So and I'm going to go around and get any spots that I think might one day eventually move. I'll force it down in there. Luckily, all this is underneath. So we'll come back in a minute and we'll do the spine next, and that'll pretty well close us up in a second or two. So now we're going to put the spine on, and this is always like the most difficult part to get on this model, because you've got this that has to be flushed down to the surface, which it doesn't want to do. You've got this join here, which is fairly level, which blends back to here, and you have a step there. It's really hard to get everything in there. I know, Elliot, but it works. What I had forgot to do was this. I forgot to drill out the photon torpedoes, and what I did is I put a piece of some clear PETG back in there, and then put some CA over it, and then I put some red tin over it, and that gives us, well, you can kind of see there that they're glowing. So those will glow, light up, which is really cool. And that was done in a matter of seconds because I had forgot. I forgot. So then I sanded all this down till it fit right, which it now does. So it fits in there pretty darn good. So we're going to close this up. And that's pretty much going to be the end of the road on this model, closing it up. So to close it up, I'm going to use CA one more time. I need my little stick here. My glue stick, glue wire that George made me. He's trying to save it for us by not having us use popsicle sticks all the time. Thank you, George. The environment appreciates it. So it's just the same old thing. I'm going to put glue in here. Nothing new to see. If Mary will let me get in there. Now I'm just going to very simply close this down. Like so, and George George is going to put a little bit of kicker. It still didn't fit closed right. It's got this step here. An annoying harpy. So, but that's kind of as good as it gets anyway. Mine's exactly the same way. I'm going to put a little bit more in there and just push. It's going to be all right. Nothing I can't do with a bit of sanding. Squadron putty, the breakfast of champions. It's really, according to David Merriman, who taught me a lot of things about modeling. As he says, we stand on the shoulders of giants. Interesting human being, but very gracious in teaching. And I learned a lot of things from him. And one thing I learned from him is that this is crap. I don't know, I don't exactly remember why he felt that way. He prefers to use nitrosan, which I can't seem to find out here. A close runner-up to that is Bondo spot putty. Not glazing putty, but spot. It air cures. It's really good. I don't like to use it on models like this because it's very red. It is also opaque, but this stuff is really good. What I like to use it for is light blocking, and I'll demonstrate here in a second, but I need a sculpting tool. Cut. So I got this little sculpting tool here, and I'm going to, you can see that there's light leaking through here. So actually, first thing I'm going to do for precaution of the paint job, I can be very good at not getting it where I don't want it to be. But if you're really worried about the paint job and you think, Steve, why paint stuff ahead of time? Why not just, put the whole thing together and then paint it? Well, I've showed you my reasons for that. So if you're worried about windows and messing up the paint, just take a little bit of blue painter's tape like so, right? Works for me. And then I'm going to take some of this stuff. I usually sit out on a piece of wood like this. It gets really thick and dries very quickly. And then I just do this. See, this is one of the reasons that you subscribe to our channel, because you learn little tricks like that. Now, I'll remove that. And voila, you got a really nice seam. Do you see any light leaking between those anymore? Is it nice and level? The answer is, of course, yes. So now you do see light? How many lights do you see? So that did that pretty well. I can see a little tiny bit on this seam here. So I'm going to turn this tape around, reusing it, put it right there. Okay, like that. And I put it right here, like so. And then I'm going to fill in that little area there. And I do this all the way around all the seams till there's nothing else showing. Now the reason I'm not using Tulip is because, I'm not going to have a nice surface to paint on quite the same as I can with the putty. So between the Tulip fabric paint and this, and as you can clearly see, that leak is gone. Because this stuff's really opaque. I'll pat it down a bit in my hand. So that's how you fill the light leaks. And I've got a really nasty one right here because of the previous owner who was not careful on how he put it together. But even with these, you don't want to get into the detail of that part. And it's just terrible how he glued this part in wrong, and I couldn't get it loose without damaging the model. So instead, I'm just going to do this. Looking pretty good. No squadron putty was wasted, at least not really. Right, George? Several trees, though. Yeah. And we're sorry about that. Luckily, they grow back. So we're going to see how this worked. I always save these little pieces of tape because you never know. I didn't go far enough down this end, and some of it came out again, which is interesting. So I'm going to kind of do that. So I'm just carving little lines in it and stuff. Digging out the stuff I don't want. Like that. And then after it dries, I can use some files and do a bit more. But what's really annoying me, and where's that, here, I'll use this. Sometimes it's just all up to that one, see that one little leak right there? It's just an annoying little pesky mofo. There, gone. Eat, smoke a turd in hell. There. But you can see how long this is going to take. But you can also see how well the squadron putty, which is very carvable, sandable, and shaveable, you can, shaveable? Look how far he glued that part up. So it's really not, you know, where it's supposed to be, and it's very unfortunate. I don't know if he broke it or what, but I'm going to pour some more putty in there and carve up that hole, because it's easier to do that than it is to try to correct the problem in the plastic. And the only people who will know that I did this will be you. No one else will know. I don't think it makes sense. No. And that's pretty much how we do that. These are these insets are darker. They have little details on them and stuff, which I'll be able to hand scribe once this stuff sets up all the way. But that got pretty much the edge of that saucer rim pretty well. And this is getting closed up very well, and I'll be able to get all the light leaks on it probably in a couple of hours or so next week. And then I'm going to lightly sand everything and then touch up the paint. There, as you can see, there's not going to be much paint to touch up, and not much, yeah. And so, for me, there's a huge advantage to pre-painting sub-assemblies of all the different sections and putting them together, because for one, I didn't get any paint on the windows. I didn't have to remove any paint from the windows, just for starters. So, all I have to do is just lightly sand, touch up, and move on to decals. So, and we will do that next week. Thanks for following along as always, and have fun building a Voyager yourself or some other neat model. Right, George?
Right.
Thanks, George. It was great having you here. Okay, see you next week.